Good morning. I'm Tatiana Rowe with
Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good morning. I'm Tatiana Rowe with BCIT's Good morning. I'm Tatiana Rowe with BCIT's The Crow, and here are your news updates at 10 a.m. Richmond RCMP arrested one individual early this morning after illegally entering an airplane at YVR. Mounties say the investigation is still ongoing, and Vancouver Airport Authority says the incident has not interrupted airport operations. The federal government is providing $1.5 billion in tariff relief funding in response to the U.S. widening its tariff criteria in April. This includes one new $1 billion program under the Business Development Bank of Canada and a $500 million top-up to the Tariff Response Fund. Artificial Intelligence Minister Evan Solomon says the money helps support Canadian businesses.
It's not just about surviving disruptions, but let's face it, we're in a tariff war, we've got to do that. It's about creating more innovative, stronger, more resilient, more competitive companies. Canadian manufacturers are resilient, our workers are skilled, our businesses are ready to compete globally when they have the right support.
Warm weather broke records this weekend, with parts of BC seeing over 30 degrees. The warm weather sparked 10 new wildfires in the last 24 hours. BC Wildfire Services say there are currently 31 active fires across the province. Now we will hear from our producer, Leslie Rose, about what we have coming up on the show for the rest of the day.
So today we have our reporters out chasing stories about how the heat will be affecting the salmon in our rivers and how one of the busiest Safeways is coping with stealing. So we're going to be talking to a security guard. Okay, back to you.
Thank you, Leslie. Prime Minister Mark Carney says the federal government will be contributing $270 million to the Ukrainian war effort. This money will go towards buying items from the NATO list and brings Canada's total support for Ukraine up to $25.8 billion. Mark Carney says the munitions were being made available by the United States.
There's been a big draw on resources because of the war with Iran, but they have made resources available to Ukraine. These packages are for specific material that will be made available to Ukraine.
President Trump says his administration's latest plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz begins today. He is calling it Project Freedom and provides a protective shield for ships traveling the strait. This comes after peace talks with Iran remain stalled. ABC News chief Mary Bruce has more.
The president calling this new effort a humanitarian gesture to help ships linked to countries not involved in the war, and threatening any interference with the operation will unfortunately have to be dealt with forcefully. Trump's announcement coming after two more cargo ships were reportedly attacked Sunday by multiple small crafts off the coast of Iran.
More with Iran. The U.S. military says two American-flagged merchant ships successfully transited through the strait on Monday. In entertainment news, pop star Britney Spears pleads guilty to her DUI charge in Los Angeles. ABC's Alex Stone has more details.
Britney Spears, as we expected, not in court. There was a plea deal that was offered to her, put on the table for this DUI, and she is taking the plea deal to a lesser charge. She is being sentenced to 1 day in Ventura County Jail. She has already served that time from when she was arrested. 3 months in an alcohol education program, fines of $571.
Today in Vancouver, we will be seeing another warm day with a high of 27, with it cooling back down next week to 20 degrees. That's your news at 10 a.m. More coming in a half an hour. I'm Tatiana Rowe with BCIT's The Crow. Thanks for listening and have a great day.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikki-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika Sikki-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good morning, I'm Gus Johnson, and these are your sports headlines for 10:10. 4 teams hit the ice last night in the NHL playoffs. The lone Canadian team in action was the Montreal Canadiens, who took down the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 7 of the first round. Despite being outshot 29-9, the Canadiens were propelled by a physical playoff hockey approach. The Canadiens had 13 more hits than the Lightning, and Jakub Dobeš had 28 saves. Canadian Olympian Nick Suzuki opened the scoring for Montreal early in the first period, and former Victoria Grizzly Alex Newhook got the game-winning goal with 8 minutes left in the third period. The Canadiens became the first team ever with less than 10 shots to win a playoff game. Nick Suzuki speaks on his head coach, Martin St. Louis.
I think he's one of the best coaches in the whole world, and I think the way he can find ways to, seems like he says the right thing at every single situation and knows how to get the best out of his guys. Obviously, no one was happy with that second period, and he comes in all fired up, getting us going for the third.
The Toronto Raptors season has come to an end after a 7-game clash with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Jared Allen had a double-double with 22 points and 19 rebounds to lead the Cleveland Cavaliers past the Toronto Raptors 114-102 to take the deciding Game 7 of their first-round series. Raptors guard R.J. Barrett of Mississauga, Ontario, says he was proud of one thing in particular.
How hard we played. Also how hard we played, one, with having a lot of guys that literally had no playoff experience at all. Being down one starter, being down 2 starters. Guys just came in and gave it their all.
Usual starters Brandon Ingram and Emmanuel Quickley were out with injuries. Cleveland advances to play the Detroit Pistons starting tomorrow. Former Raptors president Masai Ujiri has been hired by the Dallas Mavericks to be their next president and alternate governor. Ujiri spent 12 seasons with the Toronto Raptors and was the general manager during their 2018-2019 championship victory. He was responsible for several groundbreaking trades and was known for developing players with raw talent into quality players like Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. The first female trainer to win at the Kentucky Derby is Cherry DeVoe. The horse she trained, Golden Tempo, went from last to first to win the first leg of the Triple Crown over the weekend. DeVoe describes what it feels like to become a Kentucky Derby winner.
I just really couldn't imagine that I actually won the Kentucky Derby as a trainer, much less the first female thoroughbred trainer to win the Kentucky Derby.
Toronto Blue Jays split their series with the Minnesota Twins over this weekend. Playoff sensation Trey Savage was back on the mound for his second start since his arm injury and has a .96 earned run average in 2 games, while being on a pitch count due to his recovery. The Blue Jays will take on the Tampa Bay Rays in Tropicana Stadium for their next series. The series starts at 3:40 this afternoon. David Augustine speaks on the Maple Leafs management moves from the
time since 2016. Toronto fired GM Brad Treliving in March. The club also did not replace President Brendan Shanahan after he was let go in May 2025. Sundin and Sheka arrived with the organization still searching for its first Stanley Cup since 1967. David Augustine, The Canadian Press, Toronto.
Sagar Magani reports on the death of Yankees announcer John Sterling.
The voice for a generation of New York Yankees fans has died.
Yankees win! Yankees win!
For more than 3 decades, John Sterling was the theatrical voice of the Yankees on WCBS and WFAN, with a bombastic delivery and signature home run calls.
That ball's high! It is far! It is gone!
That was Derek Jeter's 3,000th hit 15 years ago. Sterling had heart surgery this winter and has died at 87. I'm Sagar Meghani.
The NHL Draft Lottery is taking place tomorrow in Secaucus, New Jersey. Vancouver Canucks will anxiously wait for the results of this lottery. The Canucks have the best odds for the number 1 pick, something the team has never.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretanero.
And I'm Radhika